shocked and saddened by what is undoubtedly a tragedy, but as Andrew says, we're here to celebrate Bianca. And I think if we focus on a sense of what might have been, and for sure there would have been plenty of big possibilities in the future for her, and she was at a turning point where she was going to achieve so much, I think it does a disservice to what she had already achieved. It was a life that was full of accomplishments. She had achieved more in her short life than many of us could hope to achieve in many decades longer. And we really need to respect that. I started in the department in 2008, and that's when Bianca started her PhD as well. And I think the thing that became really obvious when she started is that she wasn't a singular entity. It wasn't just Bianca that was coming into the department. She was bringing all of you with her. That was very clear. So her PhD was it was an individual enterprise, but she was much bigger than a single person. You couldn't speak to her for more than 5 minutes without getting quite an intimate account of the love that she had for her family. You would know about her son and her grandchildren when they came along, her sister and her father, and this was a part of her. Her family defined Bianca, and also in many ways her family defined her PhD. As I say, although it's an individual enterprise, for Bianca, her motivation, her inspiration, was undoubtedly this sense of commitment, responsibility and obligation that she felt to her father's memory, and then going in circles out to her family, and then to the wider Zoe community as well. And this was not just a casual feeling for her, this was at the very heart and soul of what she was trying to do. So she did her PhD for all of you. And I think that's also why she felt so proud about it, and quite rightly. I also work in similar areas to Bianca, and some of you may know my husband is Kachin, and so I have some insight into the pressures that come from communities as well, when people are trying to write histories and to think about communities in a new way. It can be very, very difficult, very challenging. You in some ways have to act as a community representative. You're privileged, you have a voice, you have a capacity to speak for people who are disempowered, who feel powerless. You're also writing against the grain, thinking against the intellectual framework of people who are oppressed politically and economically and socially. And that creates a huge burden. Now, I have a very small insight into that. For Bianca, that really was a defining motivation for her to manage all of those complex pressures. And that she did it so successfully, I think, is really a remarkable achievement. If you want to write a good PhD, it's very difficult no matter what the situation. If you want to write a good PhD with those additional pressures, that takes a remarkable person and a remarkable spirit and tenacity. And it can only be successful if it also comes from a very deep, intellectual and emotional, compassionate inner space and inner life. And I think one reason why we all feel so moved by what has happened is because in recognising Bianca's contribution to the department as a colleague, we recognise that those were the qualities that we could all see in her. It wasn't just about her being another PhD student. She was somebody who had all these extra burdens, and yet she managed them so well. She was rightly committed to a sense of truth, and if that meant saying things that were difficult, then she was also committed to doing that as well. So we should really celebrate that part of her life. It's also true that we should say that her goal, one of her big goals in her life, was to complete her PhD. And she did it. And this is why we should celebrate her. We shouldn't see this as something that is just a preface to something else, or what might have been. She went to achieve this goal and she did it. This was a real achievement. So again, we should really celebrate what she actually managed to do with that. As soon as news started to spread about her passing away, and it spread very rapidly through ripples of communications, especially through academics that work in Northeast India, The question of whether her PhD could be published was obviously raised, and I have to say that we're really hoping to see that through to fruition. That would be a fitting and appropriate outcome, and we shall hopefully work with the family and everybody who's involved with that to see that happen. It should be part of her lifelong legacy, and as we've seen from what's been said about her already, her legacies will be many, not just that one, but that should definitely be one. Because, as I say, when she entered the department, she brought all of you with her too. I think my final comment would be to say, please think of us in the history department also as continuing as part of your extended family. There are so many communities in the Indo-Burma borderlands have a very strong sense of kinship and extended networks. As time goes by and you think of ways that you want to memorialise her, please let us know how we can help. You know? Our lives now locked together. They don't just finish here. Some of her students are here and they will be able to tell you about her great teaching this year. You know, she leaves us on a high in terms of what she was achieving at SOAS, and you know, everything that she could have gone on to achieve in the future was there for her to take, but she'd already achieved so much. And I hope that we can continue to celebrate what was a remarkable, wonderful life, and that we can remember today a vibrant, charismatic, energetic person that we will miss but will cherish in our hearts, I'm sure.